What's up, guys? We're back in the garage, technically for the first time with this old Dodge. In my last two videos, I was outside working on my back, getting this truck running. But now the plan is we are gonna take the truck on a 1,000 mile road trip. So just the regular oil change and carb rebuild, all that stuff, it's not gonna do. We need to give this thing a serious once over to make sure it's not gonna leave us stranded. So in addition to the last two videos that I put out, we're gonna really dive into a little bit more in-depth tune-up to prepare this thing for some serious miles. So let me spin the camera around, show you what I bought, and we'll dive into the video. Okay, disregard that transmission for right now. That's not part of this, but we will get to that later. On the table in front of me, I have what I would consider what you might need for a more serious tune-up. Now, in the last videos on the Dodge, I'll just kind of give you a quick rundown in case you haven't seen them. We did an oil change, a carburetor rebuild, we got the four-wheel drive working, we fixed the tailgate, and we fixed a major wiring issue. It runs and drives just great. It passed smog. All is good. We also checked the automatic transmission fluid, and it is good. So those fluids are done, but that leaves us with everything on the table right here. This truck has a Dana 60 rear, a Dana 44 front, and an NP203 transfer case. So for both the Dana 60 and the 44, you're gonna want something like this. An 80/90 gear oil. So we got 4 quarts. That should hopefully be enough to cover both. I did just pull these off. So I pulled them off, looked at the fluid, hit these real quick with the wire wheel, dumped them, got everything nice and clean, got the old gasket, everything off, and hit these with some black spray paint real quick. So these are gonna go back on with some brand new gaskets. Got one from Felpro here. These are specific. You get these from O'Reilly. So we've got our fluids. I didn't know whether or not it was gonna be a limited slip, so I did go ahead and get myself some limited slip, the stinky stuff that you squirt in there. I don't need this because it actually does not have a limited slip, so we won't be dealing with that. However, we will be doing the transfer case. So the NP203 takes a 10W30. It's the same motor oil that I used in the engine, so we're just gonna have some extra on hand in case on our road trip we need some. So we've got motor oil, so we got transfer case, we've got front and rear differential. We are also gonna do an ignition tune-up. So I've got myself a cap, a rotor, a set of plugs. The wires look pretty good, so we're gonna leave those alone for right now. I did go ahead and get myself some valve cover gaskets because I know these are leaking. And what else? Oh, in the last video, we did the brake system too. So we did a new brake master cylinder and bled all the brakes. So that is all good. And I also got an alignment. So we're really getting close to what we will need. Flip it around, we'll go to the time lapse. We'll start this differential work. So for the transfer case, it's a little bit different. The bottom bolt to the left is actually your drain plug. So you remove that. There is a fill plug, which is pretty obvious, but that's just how you drain it from there. The front and rear differential covers, unlike some cars, there's no drain plug on these. So you actually have to break the cover loose to drain it, which is kind of a pain. The trick I will tell you, and I'm sure you guys probably already know this, but don't take all the bolts out. Take like all of them except for like 1 or 2, and then get in there with like a little screwdriver or a pry bar and carefully pry it away. Because if the whole cover falls off, you'll dump all the fluid, you'll splash, make a big mess. So just try and carefully drain it out until you get most of it out, then take the cover all the way off. You could go and argue whether or not you want to use an RTV or a gasket. If you are going to use an RTV, I would kind of recommend something like this. Nope, not that. That's just regular black. Let's see. Oh, where'd it go? I had it here somewhere. Where'd it go? And it's gone. Well, anyways, they make a special sealant for differentials, which you can get from Permatex. I was going to use that, but I kind of decided last minute to go ahead and use the gaskets. The one thing about this, if you're gonna use a gasket, make sure you take something and clean off the surface. I use like a roll lock, how to get all of the old stuff off of there. You want that nice and shiny. And then I soaked this in some Purple Power for, overnight, just to kind of get all the crud and whatever else. Honestly, the fluid wasn't in that bad of shape. But we're gonna go ahead and throw these back on the truck. This thing's so damn shiny under here. I'm trying to cover up the light because it's like glaring back in the camera. Basically, I took my roll lock wheel here, which, some people might not like, but whatever. One of the reasons that I'm not gonna go back with the RTV is just such a pain in the butt to clean, but got most of it off. It's kind of hard to get it at the very top, but just about all of it off. And we'll go ahead and fit the cover back up and tighten everything up, take our time, The torque spec for this is between 30 and 40 foot-pounds, and that's what I'm reading for both the front and the rear. This is the rear, Dana 60, but we'll probably go to the low side of that, 30, 34, something like that for both sides, and then we'll start filling it with fluid till it comes out of the hole, and that's how we know it's full. Okay, I'm just gonna give you a quick tip here. If you pried the cover off with a screwdriver, make sure you did not distort the cover or gouge the cover, because if you did, you could put all the stuff back together and then find out you have a leak. So make sure if you did pry it off, take your time, and if you have to go back and kind of straighten anything or flatten any gouges, definitely do that before you fill everything back up and find a leak. Okay, new day back in the garage. Last night, we got the differentials all sorted out, front and rear, all new fluid. I will say it is a pain pumping all that stuff in. It's probably worth it if you're gonna do this more than once. Honestly, if you have a lot of old trucks, buy yourself some kind of transfer pump that's electronic, so you don't have to sit there and pump it with your hand or squeeze that bottle, because it is a pain. Anyways, that's out of the way. Now we're gonna move on to the ignition. So I got a set of Autolite plugs. These are the 65s. I did go ahead and check the gap on these, which I highly recommend doing. I don't have HEI or electronic ignition. This is an old style point system, which works just fine, but you wanna make sure your gap is set up for that. So 35 thousandths is what I'm running with. If you had an HEI, you could open that up, but we're just gonna keep it old school. It works. We're gonna throw fresh plugs in it. So they're gapped. We got our new rotor and cap, and we're just gonna start throwing the time lapse on, getting those plugs in there. I will apply some anti-seize to them before they go in. And then the other thing we'll do is we'll pull out each individual plug and look at it on the table to get an idea of how the engine was running. Ideally, you wanna see them all kind of the same color. You don't wanna see any that are dead. I kind of have a feeling this engine's running pretty good just based on how it tested on the smog test and just how it sounds and everything. It's not a powerhouse, but I don't think we're gonna find any surprises, fingers crossed. You'll see me jump around and do a couple different things here first. I am marking all the spark plug boots just so I know exactly where they go before I pull the spark plugs out. Once I do pull the plugs out, I'm gonna set them on the bench so I can see what all of the plugs look like and get an idea if any cylinder was running better or worse. Like I said, I did pull the valve covers off to put on brand new gaskets. I thought the driver's side was going to be harder. It's actually the easier side, and when you get over to the other side with all the hoses, you'll see why. Okay. Tune-up part is mostly wrapped up. Let's show you what all we did and then what left we had to do. Take my word for it. We've got a new distributor cap and rotor. The wires look great, so I left them. Honestly, the plugs weren't in too bad a shape. I think there was an ignition tune-up done recently on this thing, but I honestly think the issues with the carburetor before probably made this run a little bit rich, is my guess. So we went ahead, did plugs, cap, rotor, new valve cover gaskets because we were getting a ton of leak by. I'm hoping some of the oil I was seeing on the plugs was actually running past the cork gaskets. We got both of those replaced. Along the way, I did find some janky wiring that I am gonna have to address. But the next big thing we're really gonna work on is this power steering pump. It is leaking like crazy. I've got a rebuild kit, so we are gonna rebuild that. And then after that, gauges on the inside, which will probably be another video, and then just some wiring, little cleanup, and then we're mostly there. Whenever I'm doing a bunch of work like this, I really like to go in and make sure it still runs before we do too much else, because we were playing with the plugs, the wires, all that stuff. So let's make sure it still runs. All right. It is running, fired right up. It is cold, so it's got a little bit of a gallop to it, but I think that will smooth out once it warms up just a tad. I was planning on showing you guys the power steering pump fix. Unfortunately, as I was working on that, I wound up breaking one of the lines, forcing me to kind of stop, order some new parts, and really start reevaluating everything. And then I found some more issues with some wiring that I had to fix. Long story short, I stopped filming for this point. I did go and install those gauges. If you haven't seen that video, it's already uploaded. Go back and check that out. We will do another video to kind of get you up right to where we are right before the road trip. It's another day and we're back in the garage, but not with the same Dodge. I am going to address that all in the next video. We were thrashing to try and get this thing ready to rock and roll, and we got super close, and then we started to find some things which really started to make me question whether or not it was going to be a good idea to go on this 1,000-mile road trip or not, but I kept pushing. So in this next video, we're going to show you everything that happened at that point, and then you'll just have to see if we wind up making it on the road trip or not. I'm really excited. I really want to take this truck on a big road trip. The one we have planned right now is like 1,000 miles. So this thing really needs to be in tip-top shape, and kind of where we're planning on going with the truck is pretty remote. There is going to be some off-roading involved, so we really can't have it break down on us because there's really no backup. Anyways, that's all in another video. I really appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully you like kind of what we're doing. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like and subscribe button and go back and watch some of the other videos, because pretty much with all my cars, I do videos from when I purchase them all the way up until the point where I sell them. And I want to keep this truck for a while, but I got to get it to the point where it's running reliably. One of the things we're going to do in a way future video, this is definitely not going to be for a while, but I did pick up a NV435. So this is a 4-speed manual transmission. Love manuals on this channel. The Comet's a manual. I put a T5 in that. That's got the TR3160 6-speed in it, in the twin turbo Mach 1. So anything I can get in a manual, I will get. And if it doesn't have a manual in it, I generally like to put manuals in things. So this would have been the transmission that would have came in the truck for that year. This has got the granny low. It's a 4-speed, so it's really like a 3-speed with a granny low. But just something about stick shift 4-wheel drive trucks are a ton of fun. So this will go in there eventually, but I had to source this from up in Idaho, and I still need, I've got basically, you know, you can see over here, I've got the bell housing, the transmission, the adapter for the MP203 transfer case. What I don't have that I will need, that you can't just buy, is I'm going to need to get like the Z-bar linkage, a clutch pedal, and all the stuff to make that kind of made up. So we will go and do that in a very much further down the road video, but you know, just so you have an idea, that stuff is coming. So again, appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned. Another video will probably upload in roughly a week or so. See you next time.